it was not too expensive and I wanted a little treat. This Prudence card absolutely called me out earlier this week. You know, I have enough keywords in my life. I'm not sure if I see what I'm saying. I have so many decks that I want to work with that I don't know when that's going to be. I can't get enough of these delicious purple edges. I'm really having a mini deck moment. It was a 90% impulse buy. This is the disappointment. Hello everybody, it's Sylvie. Welcome or welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing all kinds of good. I've got a good old-fashioned haul for you today because I've collected quite a few new decks since my last haul video, which was, I want to say, end of March, beginning of April. So this is 3 months worth of new decks that have come into my collection. I've got 9 decks here. I've got some tarot, I've got some oracle, and I am going to jump straight in. This is in no particular order, but I am starting with the Pocket Archetypes Oracle. This came out in this mini size earlier this year, and I've already got a couple of videos featuring this deck. I did a video of different ways to bond with an oracle, which I used this as the example for, and I also did a playing with pairs video in which I was trying to find some good pairs with this deck. I have also pulled this out a fair bit. I have been really enjoying it. I really like the content of the guidebook. The form factor, not so much. It's tiny. The font is very small. It's impractical. So I kind of want the full size just for the guidebook, but that seems a little bit wasteful because I love the size of these cards. But I really like this. I really like all the thought that's gone into this deck. I really like the artwork. It's analog collage. It's also all this beautiful like watercolory coloring. So it's a mix of like pen and ink and then there's analog collage. I really like it. It goes with a lot of decks and it's an archetypes deck. And I think it really adds a lot to a lot of my readings. This archetypal energy works really well as an add-on to most of the readings that I do for myself. I can throw in a what should I embody, what should I kind of emulate, anything like that. I can tend to add into pretty much any reading that I do for myself. So I'm really enjoying the Pocket Archetypes. I won't bang on too much because, like I say, I've already featured this in 2 videos on my channel. When I'm talking about Pocket Oracle decks, I'm going to mention the Herbal Astrology Pocket Oracle. First of all, I'm loving all of the mini pocket sizes of decks that are coming out at the moment. Why are these separated? I know, because I was separating the Mercury and Venus associated cards I was putting to one side, which is like half the deck. But I'm loving all the mini sizes or the mini editions of existing decks that are coming out because especially for oracle cards tend to be really bulky and I just find mini ones are easier to shuffle, they're easier to store, they're easier to kind of put in my bag and take with me when I'm out and about. And this was a deck I ummed and ahed about when it first came out. When did this first come out? A couple of years ago? I wonder if it says. I think so. I think this first was published in 22. So this deck has been out for a couple of years and I've been thinking about it for a couple of years, but I wasn't 100% sure. But when I saw this mini edition was coming out, and I spent £6 on this deck. I had a voucher. It was great. It was kind of a no-brainer. But I'm really glad that I have this. This is much newer in my collection. This only came out, I think, a couple of weeks ago. So I have not worked with it too much. I've shuffled it, I've pulled some cards, I've read the guidebook entries, but that's more of a familiarizing myself with it kind of practice rather than learning the deck. And there's a lot in here, and I don't know how much of it is, I don't want to say accurate, but I don't know which traditions all of the information is drawn from. If I read the guidebook properly, it might well tell me. I haven't done that yet. And as for the planetary associations with the different plants, I don't know where all those come from. So I'm intrigued to see what the guidebook says, and then I can kind of decide what to work with in my own practice and decide what doesn't really make sense for me. Like I know a lot of these come from various different Native American traditions, which I live in Scotland. I'm British. It doesn't make sense for me to utilize that in my practice, but we'll see. I'm looking forward to getting into it. I really love this Ace of Swords kind of card going on here with the ginkgo and the breakthrough. Love it. Yeah, this is also very beautiful and I am looking forward to adding it into my practice. I've been doing a lot of astrology stuff in my personal practice recently, and I've always wanted to be a planty, herby kind of person, but I've never known how to, it's never felt very natural to incorporate that into my practical practice. So this might be a bit of a way in for me. So that is the Herbal Astrology Oracle. All right, this was an eBay purchase. This is the Gil Tarot. This deck has been on my kind of vague wish list for quite some time. I remember seeing some of these, the minors with the number and the pips and the keywords, and I thought that looks really cool. Let's stick it on the wish list, but I never looked into it very intensely. I just thought it looked cool. I really love this Prince of Swords with this butterfly on the tunic. And then I saw it pop up on eBay and I got this for like $5.50 plus postage. I was so pleased. And this also feels absolutely brand new. Um, but this is so cool. Like, I never looked into this that seriously. I never really see this on YouTube or Instagram. Like, I just don't see this about. I think this was originally published in the 80s. This print edition was 2018, but I'm pretty sure yeah, copyright 1989. So this has been out for a while. This edition was published in 2018 by US Games. I believe it is still available. It's still in print as far as I know, but I never see it around. It doesn't seem to be very popular, and I think it is so cool. I really like the art style. I think it's really beautiful. I've been using it this week paired with my Animal Apothecary Oracle, which is one of my favorite Oracle decks, and really enjoying that pairing. The colors are really good. The keywords are really good. This death is so fantastic. And I really like the minors. I like this. I guess this is what you might call pips with feeling. They're definitely not scenic. They're definitely very pippish, but they're not like a Marseille style pip. There is some kind of movement, some action, something happening. And like here. And I think I don't remember if these are the Thoth titles. I think some of them are, but I'm not sure if they all are. I don't know the Thoth titles well enough. You'll have to forgive me. But I've been really enjoying this. I really like the artwork. I really like the keywords. I quite like the guidebook. It's a little white book. It's your regular kind of a paragraph for each card. I've done some like highlighting of things. It's not just keywords, but it's not quite a fully fledged guidebook. I really enjoy this Two of Coins. And I don't know what else to say. I think this is one of the cards that I saw on like maybe like the Amazon listing page. This Seven of Cups Imagination. I think it's a bit unique from what I've seen around and about in the tarot world. I've not seen a kind of pippish deck that does this sort of a thing. So I've had this truly for a week and a half. I've been enjoying using it this week as my daily draw. I am sure I'm going to keep enjoying it, and I don't know what I hope, but I feel like this deserves a little bit more love. I feel like this is a bit of a hidden gem, an underrated mass market deck. So that is the Gil Tarot. All right, I mentioned this in a video in the mid-year tarot tag. This is the Wildwood Tarot, which is still in order because I still have not had the time to work with it, but this was sent to me by my lovely friend Imogen over at Sapling Tarot, who, if you're not subscribed to Imogen, you really should be. They're fantastic. They're a lovely human. I really like their videos. I really like their take on the tarot. It's all really good stuff. Go rectify that if you're not already subscribed. But anyway, they sent me this deck because they had a extra copy and they knew I was interested in trying it out. I spoke about this deck in my decks I don't have yet, and I was like, I think I've talked myself out of this, but I don't know, and I'm curious. And then a copy all but landed in my lap, so I can figure out for myself if I like it or not. And I, like I say, haven't dug into it yet. I have just gone through the deck. I've made sure everything is here, and I have the Wildwood Tarot guidebook that comes with it, and at some point I'm going to work my way through it. There's loads of information for each card, which I really appreciate. about the specific artwork and about how to read the specific artwork, it seems like. So I'm looking forward to that. It seems like the guidebook is set up in a way that I'm going to enjoy. And then I think we've also got some spreads and some sample readings. So I'm looking forward to getting into it and seeing what I think. I know there's also a workbook that a lot of people have for the Wildwood Tarot, and obviously I've not bought that yet, but if I end up really enjoying this deck, I might decide to pursue that as well. But I am inundated with decks to study, so I do not need to be adding another one to my list when I'm not even sure how I feel about this deck yet. But all that being said, I'm pleased to have this. I'm pleased to have been able to add this to my collection. I do really enjoy this world tree for the world card. And then we've got change suits. So we've got arrows or wands. No, arrows are wands. Arrows are swords. Yes, arrows are swords. Bows are wands. Stones would be pentacles. And then vessels are water. And then they've also got little titles. So Ace of Arrows, Breath of Life, Page of Arrows, the Wren. We've got animals for the court cards. So of course the air. Yes, arrows is swords, which is air. So it is birds. That makes sense. We've got like mammals for the fire suit. No, because that's an adder. I don't know. We've got animals. That's all I can tell you at this point. Then watery creatures for the vessels. Anyhow, I know very little about this deck in practice. I know lots of people love it. I know I was a little bit hesitant because I'm always a little bit hesitant about anything that is kind of claiming to represent ancient Britain. And I've been through that. I've discussed this in that video, in the why don't I have these decks yet, decks on my wish list video. I discussed why I'm kind of wary of this kind of deck, but I am still interested to give it a go and see how I feel and see what I think. So I'm pleased to have this in my collection, and I will report back when I've done some work with it. I have so many decks that I want to work with that I don't know when that's going to be. Let's do Tarot of a Moon Garden, because I know I've shown this off. This was also in that playing with pairs video that I did. I can't get enough of these delicious purple edges. I really like this. This is really fun. This isn't going to be a workhorse deck for me. It's not going to be a read for anything in any situation, in any mood, but I do really like it. I think it's really pretty. I can read with it easily enough, and I think the guidebook is really nice. This is quite a gentle, whimsical, generous deck is how I would describe this in my use of it so far. And I like it. I think the artwork is absolutely stunning. I'm still not convinced about the borderless. I still kind of wish I had an edition with the borders, but I do like this linen, and the edition with the borders is a smaller size, and then it's got white borders around it as well as the decorative borders, so you can definitely see a lot more of the artwork in this. This was a bit of an impulse purchase. It had been on my wish list, but the moment that I purchased it was quite impulsive. So I'm not mad about it because it worked out. I like it. It's definitely got a place in my collection for the time being. I really enjoy this death. I think it's very beautiful. It feels like summer. I think this is in my summery decks video because the colourful nighttime reminds me of summer. I think it's going to be a good one to read for friends, like maybe not super serious readings with friends who are not too familiar with the tarot maybe. I feel like this is going to be a good deck for that because it's not scary, it's not stuffed full of esoteric symbols. It's got this fun like groovy vibe, but it still gets its meaning across. So yeah, that is the Tarot of a Moon Garden. Okay, now this one was a complete impulse buy. This is the Mystical Forest Tarot. It was a 90% impulse buy because I was interested in this, and then I did decide not to buy it. And then I went shopping slightly tipsy and decided to pick it up. So this is super glossy, so I'm going to try not to catch the reflection. But this is such a bright, colourful, summery deck. The colours are delicious. And and I'm not upset to have it whatsoever. It's fun, it's vibrant, it's really beautiful. And oh, I love, okay, the sword suit have these clouds in the background. I don't think this is going to be one I can completely fall head over heels with because the pips are quite minimal. It's just cups and an animal. It's not scenic pips exactly. I suppose it's a scene, but it's not a peoply scenic. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm not sure if I see what I'm saying, but having said all that, I do like the guidebook which it comes with, which does, I think, say in the pips, I think it does quite a good job of explaining the card, and it doesn't necessarily relate to the artwork, but I also do like the keywords that come with it. It's not quite a like copy paste little white book. I think it definitely has a lot of, it's got thought behind it. It's done quite intentionally, and I appreciate that. I think the cards are really beautiful. I think this is going to be another one that I pull out to pull some cards in the summertime. And what can I say? It was a summary impulse purchase that I don't regret. And that's that. The Mystical Forest Tarot. Okay, who's next? Okay, this is the disappointment. And Chanel over at Chanel Days has already done a video explaining why this deck is such a disappointment. But I have it, so I'll show you briefly. This is the Grounded Wisdom Tarot. This was a Kickstarter that I backed sometime last year. It has been hugely delayed, but I don't blame her for that because I think it was like 700% funded. So I can't blame her for being a one person team that struggled with the demand. But okay, so these are our majors. They've not got titles, which I did know going in, so I can't judge too harshly for that. I kind of hoped they were mock-ups and we're going to have titles added because the artwork wasn't finished before the Kickstarter took place, which is maybe a lesson to take away, which is a shame because Kickstarter is supposed to be you're supporting a creative project. So I want to be able to support projects that are unfinished, but I think that's not how people treat it. People treat it like a store almost, and that you're paying for a product. And so it's a bit tricky, but okay. These are our pips. And the whole concept of this deck is really cool. It's called the Grounded Wisdom. It's based on soil and the ecosystem. So our leaves are maybe supposed to be wands. We've got microbes instead of something. I think minerals were swords, and I think mushrooms were pentacles. So maybe microbes are water. So here's our pentacles. And my issues with this deck, first of all, what the hell are these backs? This is not the back that was promised to us. She changed it after the campaign was finished, which is really disappointing because it's not what I backed. And this looks very AI. And also I realized after the fact that AI was used in the production of this deck, in the design of this deck rather, and that was not disclosed, which I'm really disappointed by because it's supposed to be disclosed on Kickstarter now. But anyway, these are our majors, which are not labeled, and I have to read the guidebook to figure out what they are. And they just look very samey. Like, it's not even straight pips because it's not even that there's 2 leaves and 1 leaf and 9 leaves. It doesn't make sense. And again, that is something I'm going to look out for in future projects that I back, is that I want to see more of the artwork, because I think the only artwork we saw before the funding period was up was of the majors and of like one of each of the minors. And I think if I'd known that they looked like this, I probably wouldn't have backed. I'm also really disappointed in this, and I'm really disappointed that the artificial intelligence wasn't disclosed. Again, I don't know what this is. So I don't know. Like, this looks very AI. It just looks very AI generated. The mushrooms especially. So I am unsure about what I'm going to do with this deck. It's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. The whole thing I'm not very pleased with, but I will read the guidebook because I think the concept for this deck, I still think the concept is so cool. it is based in the soil and ecosystem and has soil and kind of tarot and design meanings for each of the cards. I don't know what these symbols are. These symbols aren't on the cards. They don't actually help in a reading. So I'm not sure. I'm going to give the guidebook a read. I'm going to see what I think. It's got some spreads that came with it. It had a little zine that came with it that was impossible to read. Okay, so the pH scale is justice. The seasons is the Wheel of Fortune. The root is strength. The mulch for the hermit. Like they make sense. Like pollinators and like synergy partnerships for the lovers. I really like that. The irrigator for the chariot. Like I really like the mages. The bedrock for the emperor is really good. Mycelium for the hierophant. Like I really like the concept. I think this is one of those things where the concept was really cool and she should have either kept it as just a personal passion project, which is kind of how this seems to have been how she's like defending it. But fine. I feel like this should either have just been her personal passion project or she should have hired a different artist. And also some of the artwork looks blurry, like this and the other one with the worm in it, wherever that's gone here. Like they look blurry. Is it? And then this is kind of crisper. I don't know. There's inconsistencies in it. It feels unfinished. And I have seen some of the comments that she's left and she feels like it was finished, which is why I'm saying it maybe should have just been a personal project and that she was done with when she was happy with it. Because once you ask for other people's money, you do kind of have to take their opinions into account, in my view. Anyway, I don't know. It's a bit messy, but I'm disappointed. Like, also page is misspelled, for crying out loud. Anyway, like these are the same, but they're not. These are nigh on identical, and this is supposed to be the page and the queen of minerals. So I don't know. Yeah. The Grounded Wisdom Tarot. It's a disappointment, and it's mostly a disappointment because I think the concept is so cool, like this like sciencey tarot combination. Yeah, I think it was just not well executed. These backs are hideous. There was a full design for the backing that she changed post funding and that I didn't see any mention of, and I wouldn't have backed these backs because I'm fussy and I only have limited funds and I want to make sure I really am excited about what I'm backing, and these are the least exciting tarot backs I've ever seen in my life. Anyway, that is the Grounded Wisdom Tarot. Now that is out of the way, let's talk about a deck I am much more excited about. This is the Next World Tarot, the mini pocket edition. First of all, this horizontal little booklet, genius, so much easier to open than one that is bound along the long edge. It's another mini deck. I'm really having a mini deck moment, but I have had this on my wish list for so long. I think it was first brought to my attention by Kelly Bear, who spoke about this in maybe a Queer Decks for Pride Month video, and the Lovers is a card that I think it was Kelly who pointed this card out. And so this has been on my wish list for quite some time. And I had a different voucher to use. And so I got myself this mini edition of Blackwell's because it was not too expensive and I wanted a little treat. I've also been wanting more queer decks in my collection. When I did my Queer Decks for Pride video, I was kind of disappointed in myself that I only had a handful of queer decks and decks that are specifically depicting a queer community, and that is part of what this deck is depicting. It's kind of envisioning a post-revolution, post this society, and putting people of color and queer people and marginalized people at the forefront. And I love it. This arrived, I want to say 3-4 days ago. I have not really used it. I've just looked at the cards and I've shuffled it, but I can't wait to really get to grips with it because it's mini. I'm going to be able to take it out and about with me. I'm excited. I like the keywords that come with it, and we've also got the astrological information as well, which I really appreciate. I think some people would rather have just the image because it's so detailed, because this deck comes in this mini or it comes in a really oversized edition. There is no kind of happy medium, but I'm happy. And if I fall in love with it, I can always get myself the larger edition to really dive into the artwork with. But this is the Next World Tarot. I'm so pleased to have this in my collection. And that's all I have to say, because I have not worked with it yet. I have no real opinions, but yeah. Finally, the Nicoletta Ceccoli Tarot. I have done such a 180 on this deck. I was like, no, I don't want it because figures look kind of like dolls, and that's not my vibe. I also think this is one of those that surely it's popular for a reason. I think a lot of people really love this deck. And then I heard that it might be going out of print. I don't know if that is a true fact or just an internet rumor. And then I was in a shop that had this on display, and once I actually had the cards in my hands and was looking at them, I was like, oh, I think maybe I get it. I think maybe I understand what's so powerful about this deck. And I think it could be a really valuable addition to my collection. So I went back like a week later and bought it. So it wasn't quite an impulse buy. It was close though. I went back and I bought it. Like this for Justice, this is really good. I think this is one of those decks that's going to be very evocative, quite like the Deviant Moon. I spoke about that in my tarot straight to the point, speedy readers video. I said that the Deviant Moon Tarot is one that I look at the cards and I get a feeling, and it's quite an evocative, visceral deck. And I think this potentially could be the same kind of experience reading with this deck with the Nicoletta Ceccoli. So I also think the artwork is really beautiful, and it's artwork that I appreciate more in person than I ever have online. Some decks are just like that. It's the same as I've seen decks online that I think are absolutely stunning. I've watched walkthroughs. I think they're totally beautiful. I get them in my hands and they fall flat. This is happily the opposite. And I am looking forward to seeing where this lands in my practice. I have not done too much reading with this yet because it was a recent edition. How is the guidebook? It is a low scarabo, so it's multi-language, so there's only a couple of pages. Okay, so this is your standard little white book. It's not discussing the artwork, it's card meanings. So I probably won't really touch this because it doesn't directly speak to the artwork. It's just keywords, and I have enough keywords in my life. It's also much more colorful in person, which is also the same as the Deviant Moon, which is more colorful in person than it ever looks online. But yeah, so I'm really intrigued to see where this lands in my practice. I think it's always interesting to see the decks that I do a 180 on and see where they land for me. So yeah, that is it. That is the last deck in this little haul. So that is it. That is everything I have acquired in the last 3 months, tarot and oracle wise. Let me know if there's anything you think I should focus on. Let me know what decks you've got recently. Let me know what you want to see from me. Just say hi. I don't know. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for spending some time with me. I really hope you've enjoyed, especially if you've made it all the way to the end of this one. Give me a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.